Somewhere in America tonight, a 70-year-old woman is walking into a library to use the free internet because she cannot afford one at home, and she is not there to relax. She is there to look for a job. She worked her entire life. She raised a family. She did everything she was told to do, and now, in the years that were supposed to be her reward, she is filling out applications at a drugstore, praying someone will hire her. She is not lazy. She is not stupid. She is not an exception. She is the face of the single largest financial disaster unfolding in this country right now, and almost nobody is talking about it honestly. Because here is the number that should stop you cold. Nearly half of American households have nothing saved for retirement. Not a little, not enough, nothing, zero. And the people crossing into their mid-60s right now are the first massive wave to discover what that actually feels like. That the finish line they spent 40 years running toward is completely empty when they finally arrive. In the next hour, I'm going to show you exactly how an entire generation reached the end of the race with empty hands, whose fault it really is, and most importantly, whether it's too late for you or the people you love. Because whether you're 25 or 55, what I'm about to show you will change how you think about every single dollar you earn from this day forward. Welcome to Money Decoded. Let's start with the lie almost everyone was told. For most of the last century, there was a simple, comforting promise wired into the American story. Work hard for 40 years, keep your head down, pay your taxes, and retirement would take care of itself. You'd get a pension from your company, a check from the government, and maybe a paid-off house, and those three things together would carry you comfortably to the end. That was the deal. That was the picture everyone was handed. The gold watch, the quiet mornings, the trips you always postponed, the grandkids, the rest you finally earned. And for a while, for one lucky generation, that promise actually held. Your grandparents may have lived it. A company pension plus a Social Security check really was enough to get by, especially with a house that was paid off. So the belief got passed down like a family heirloom. This quiet assumption that if you just worked, the golden years would be waiting. But here is what nobody announced, because there was no announcement. Underneath that promise, quietly, piece by piece, the entire foundation was being pulled out. The pensions vanished. The costs exploded. The government check got stretched thinner and thinner. And the people who kept believing in the old deal, who kept assuming it would all work out because that's what they were told, walked straight toward a cliff that was no longer a finish line. They didn't fail the plan. The plan was rewritten while they were still running. And to understand how millions of hardworking people ended up here, you have to see exactly what got taken away and when. Now, before we go further, I need to be honest with you, because the easy story here is a cruel one. The easy story says these people were just irresponsible. They spent too much. They didn't plan. They bought the coffees and the gadgets and never saved a dime. So now they're paying for it. And look, personal choices absolutely matter. And we're going to talk about them seriously. Because for the younger people watching, your choices are everything. But if you think this crisis is simply millions of individuals all failing at the same time, you're missing the real story, and you'll draw exactly the wrong lessons from it. Because the truth is, the ground shifted underneath an entire generation while they were standing on it. The steady jobs with pensions disappeared. The cost of a home, a car, healthcare, and raising a child multiplied far faster than wages ever did. People took pay cuts to survive, drained their savings for a medical bill or a car repair, and then got told they should have planned better. Many of them did everything right by the rules they were given, and the rules changed anyway. So this is not a video about blaming struggling seniors, and it's not a video about pretending choices don't matter either. It's about seeing the whole machine clearly, the forces that were done to them and the moves that were still within their control, because only when you see both can you. Let's talk about the first thing that disappeared, because it's the piece almost nobody under 50 even remembers existed. The pension. For your grandparents' generation, a huge number of jobs came with something remarkable, a guarantee. You worked for a company for decades, and in return, that company promised to pay you a fixed check every single month for the rest of your life after you retired. You didn't have to manage it. You didn't have to invest it. You didn't have to guess how long you'd live. The company carried that risk for you. It was, quietly, one of the most powerful wealth machines ordinary workers ever had. And then, over a few decades, it was quietly killed off. Companies looked at those lifelong promises and saw a giant, expensive liability sitting on their books, and one by one, they decided they didn't want to carry it anymore. So they replaced the pension with something that sounded modern and empowering, but shifted the entire burden onto you. Instead of a guaranteed check for life, you now got an account you had to fund yourself, invest yourself, and never outlive, all on your own. The risk didn't disappear. It just got moved off the company's shoulders and onto the backs of individual workers, most of whom were never taught how to carry it. That single shift, from a guarantee the company owned to a gamble you own, is one of the biggest reasons an entire generation is now staring at empty accounts. And it set up the second lie, the comforting story of the three-legged stool. For decades, retirement was explained with a simple, reassuring image: the three-legged stool. Leg 1 was your company pension. Leg 2 was your social security check from the government. And leg 3 was your own personal savings. 3 legs, holding you up steadily through your final decades. It was a nice picture, and it worked, as long as all 3 legs were actually there. But look at what happened to that stool. The first leg, the pension, was sawed off almost entirely for most private workers, as we just saw. The third leg, personal savings, requires people to consistently set aside money for 40 years, something that becomes nearly impossible when wages stay flat, while the price of everything, housing, healthcare, education, keeps climbing. So for tens of millions of people, that leg is thin as a toothpick, or missing completely. And that leaves just one leg standing: Social Security. A program that, as we're about to see, was never designed to hold up the entire weight of your retirement by itself. It was meant to be one support among 3, the floor, not the whole house. But when 2 of your 3 legs are gone, you don't have a stool anymore. You have a single wobbling stick, and you're trying to balance your entire old age on top of it. This is the real structure of the crisis. Millions of people were promised a 3-legged stool, built their whole future around the assumption it existed, and only discovered at 65 that 2 of the legs had quietly been taken away. And the leg they're all leaning on now is cracking under the weight. Now here's the part that turned a bad situation into a catastrophe. When companies replaced pensions with do-it-yourself accounts, they handed people a tool that could genuinely build wealth, but they handed it over with almost no instructions. Suddenly, an ordinary worker who'd never been taught a thing about investing was expected to decide how much to contribute, which funds to choose, how to balance risk, and how to make the money last 30 years after they stopped working. Most people, understandably, froze. Some never signed up at all. Others put in a tiny amount and never touched it again. Many pulled the money out early when an emergency hit, paying penalties and destroying years of growth. And a huge number simply assumed, wrongly, that whatever they were doing would somehow be enough. The result is brutal and it's measurable. Study after study finds that the typical worker in this country has shockingly little saved, often less than a single year's expenses, sometimes almost nothing at all. The system quietly assumed that if you just gave people accounts, they'd naturally become disciplined lifelong investors. But without education, without guidance, and while stretched thin by rising costs, most people didn't, and the accounts stayed nearly empty. This wasn't a moral failure of millions of individuals. It was a predictable outcome of taking away a guarantee and replacing it with a complicated tool nobody explained. And it means that for most people approaching retirement today, that last standing leg, Social Security, isn't just one support. It's everything. So let's look hard at that check and the trap hiding inside it. Let's be clear-eyed about the one leg millions of people are now leaning their entire lives on. Social Security was built for a specific purpose. It was designed to be a floor, a basic safety net, so that no one who worked their whole life would fall into total poverty in old age. That's it. It was never, ever meant to be your entire retirement. But that's exactly what it has become for a staggering number of Americans, and the math simply does not work. The average monthly benefit is not a comfortable living. For many people, it barely covers rent, and then there's nothing left for food, medicine, utilities, or a single emergency. Anyone who has spent time around retirees living only on that check knows the truth. They ration their pills. They skip meals so the money stretches to the end of the month. They sit in the cold to keep the electric bill down. This is the reality behind the statistics. Real people surviving, not living, on a check that was designed to be one support among 3 and is now carrying the entire load. And here's what makes it even more painful. Many of these people genuinely believed the check would be enough because that's the impression they were left with for decades. Nobody sat them down and said, "This alone will not sustain you. You must build the other legs yourself." So they leaned everything on the floor, and the floor was never built to hold a whole house. But as thin as that check is today, there's a storm coming that could make it thinner, and it's closer than most people realize. Here is something that gets whispered about, but rarely explained plainly. So let me do that. The Social Security system, as it's currently funded, is on a path where it will not be able to pay full benefits for much longer. The projections point to a moment, not decades away, but within the next 10 years or so, where, if nothing is changed, the program would only be able to pay out a portion of what it has promised, potentially cutting benefits by roughly a fifth to a quarter across the board. Now think about what that means. The check that already isn't enough, the one people are surviving on right now, could shrink by around 20% or more, right as the largest wave of retirees in the history of this country is leaning on it the hardest. For someone barely making rent today, a cut like that isn't an inconvenience, it's a catastrophe. And I want to be careful and honest here, because this is where a lot of people get scared or spun in circles. Nobody knows exactly what politicians will do. There are ways to fix the shortfall, and there's a real chance they'll act before the deadline, because cutting checks for millions of voters is political poison. But hoping the government rescues you at the last minute is not a retirement plan. If your entire future is built on the assumption that this one check will stay full and reliable, you are building your house on the one leg that's already cracking. Which brings us to the cruelest trap of all, the one that punishes people for the crime of trying to work. Now here's a trap almost nobody sees coming until it bites them, and it reveals just how stacked this system really is. Many people, realizing their check isn't enough, do the responsible thing and try to keep working to make ends meet. But if you claim your Social Security early, before your full retirement age, the government limits how much you're allowed to earn from a job. Cross that limit, and for every couple of dollars you make, they claw back $1 of your benefit. Let that sink in. You worked your whole life. You took a reduced check because you needed the money, and now the moment you try to earn a little extra to survive, the system reaches in and takes part of your benefit right back. This is exactly why you hear so many retirees say, "I can't work too much, I can only do part-time," because if they earn too much, they actually go backwards. They're trapped in a narrow band, allowed to be just poor enough to keep their check, but never allowed to climb out. And there's a deeper decision hidden in here too, about when to claim. Claim early, and your monthly check is permanently smaller for the rest of your life. Wait, and each year you delay makes that check bigger. For many people, especially those in good health, waiting is one of the most powerful moves available because it raises their guaranteed income for as long as they live. But when you're broke at 62 and the bills are due now, waiting feels impossible, so people grab the smaller check out of desperation and lock in less for the rest of their lives. Every direction is a trap when you arrive with nothing. But there's another force that's been quietly destroying these savings, one that even the careful savers never saw coming. There is a thief that has been quietly robbing every single person in this story, and most of them never felt the hand in their pocket until it was too late. Its name is inflation. Here's how it works, slowly and invisibly. Every year, prices creep upward. A gallon of milk, a tank of gas, a month of rent, a doctor's visit, all of it costs a little more than it did the year before, which means the exact same dollar buys a little less each year. Now over 1 year, that's barely noticeable. But retirement isn't 1 year. It's 20, 30, sometimes 40 years. And over that long stretch, inflation doesn't nibble at your money, it devours it. A sum that felt comfortable when you retired can lose half its buying power or more by the time you're deep into old age. This is the part of the story that blindsides even the responsible people. You'll hear retirees say it with genuine shock. They thought, "I'm going to retire with a nice round number, I'll be fine." And then they watched that number stay the same on paper while the world around it got twice as expensive, until the money that was supposed to last simply didn't. They didn't overspend. They got quietly robbed by time and rising prices. And the people hit hardest are exactly the ones who thought they were being safe, because the safest looking choices were often the most exposed. Let me show you the cruel trick inflation plays on the careful. Picture the person who did save, but did it the way that felt safest. They didn't trust the stock market. It seemed like gambling, so they kept their money in cash, under the mattress, in a basic savings account earning almost nothing, maybe some in gold. They felt responsible, protected, smart. And for years, the number sat there looking stable and reassuring. But here's the trick that got them. While that money sat perfectly still, inflation kept marching. So even though the number on the account never dropped, the amount of life it could actually buy was shrinking every single year. They weren't standing still. They were sinking in slow motion, and the calm, unchanging balance hit it completely. That's the brutal irony at the center of this crisis. The people who played it safest with cash often ended up worse off than they imagined. Because doing nothing with your money is not safe at all. It's a guaranteed slow loss. Meanwhile, the people who did invest, who put their money into ownership of real companies and assets, generally saw their money grow faster than prices rose, and they came out ahead, sometimes far ahead. And yet, even some of them felt uneasy, because they watched the cost of everything explode and wondered if their million would really be a million in buying power. This is the lesson buried in the wreckage. In a world of constant inflation, keeping your money still is not caution, it's a decision to get poorer. Your money has to grow at least as fast as prices, or you lose no matter how disciplined you are. And that raises a haunting question. If the system knew all of this, why was it built to leave ordinary people so exposed? Because the answer is darker than simple bad luck. Let me expose one more illusion, because it traps people at every income level, even the ones who think they're winning. So many people fix their eyes on a single magic number. I'll be fine when I hit $1 million. That's the dream, the finish line, the moment they'll finally feel safe. But $1 million is not a fixed amount of security. It's a fixed amount of money, and money is a shrinking ruler. $1 million today buys a certain amount of life. $1 million 30 years from now, after decades of inflation, could buy a fraction of that. The number stays impressive while its real power quietly drains away. This is why you'll hear people who actually hit their targets still feel anxious, still feel like the ground is shifting under them, because it is. The goalpost they aimed at was measured in dollars, but their actual security is measured in what those dollars can buy, and that keeps eroding. And here's why this matters for you, right now, whatever your age. It means the goal was never simply to pile up a big number and stop. The goal is to own things that grow, assets that rise with the cost of living and beyond it, so your money keeps its power instead of melting. The people retiring broke today are the clearest possible warning. Some had nothing, yes, but others had numbers that looked fine on paper and still ended up squeezed, because nobody taught them that a dollar saved is a dollar that must keep growing, or it dies. So we've seen the pension vanish, the safety net crack, and inflation feast. But there's one more layer to this, and it's the one that will make you angry, because a lot of this suffering is somebody else's profit. Here's the part that should change how you feel about all of this, from sadness to something sharper. Every dollar that quietly slips away from an ordinary saver does not vanish into thin air. It goes somewhere. It lands in somebody else's pocket. The retirement crisis isn't just a sad accident that happened to millions of people at once. For a whole industry, it's a business model, and a wildly profitable one. Think about it. Your money has to be managed, so there are people who manage it and take a cut. Your money sits in funds, so there are companies that run those funds and skim a fee off the top every year, whether you win or lose. When you're old and frail, you'll need care, and there are investors who bought up that care and squeeze it for profit. At every single stage of this story, from your first paycheck to your last breath, there is someone positioned to take a slice of what was supposed to be your security. And most of it happens in the shadows, in fine print, in percentages so small they sound harmless. But those tiny percentages, taken from millions of people over decades, add up to one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history, flowing quietly from the people who can least afford it to the people who already have the most. Let me pull back the curtain on exactly how it's done, starting with the most invisible thief of them all, the one hiding inside the very accounts you were told to trust. Let's talk about fees, because this is where the polite robbery happens, and almost nobody notices it. When your money sits in a retirement fund, the company running that fund charges you a fee, usually expressed as a small percentage of your total each year. 1%, 2%. It sounds trivial. It sounds like a rounding error. Who would even bother to fight over 1%? But here is the trick that makes this so devastating. That fee isn't charged once. It's charged every single year, on your entire balance, for your entire life. And it doesn't just take that slice of money. It takes all the future growth that slice would have earned, compounding against you, decade after decade. Run the real math, and it's staggering. A seemingly tiny 2% annual fee can quietly consume a third, even half, of everything your money would have grown into over a full career. Half. Two people can earn the exact same returns in the market, but the one paying high fees can retire with hundreds of thousands of dollars less, sometimes far more, for no reason other than the invisible skim. And the cruelest part is how hidden it is. You never write a check for it. You never see a bill. It's simply deducted, silently, from your account, a little every year, so smoothly that most people go their entire lives without ever realizing how much of their future was handed to a fund manager who did nothing extraordinary to earn it. This is why the single most powerful thing an ordinary investor can do is boringly simple. Choose low-cost funds, the kind that just quietly track the whole market for almost nothing, and refuse to let the fee machine feast on your future. Because in a world where a couple of percent can eat half your retirement, the fee you pay isn't a detail. It's one of the biggest decisions of your financial life. But fees are only the beginning, because there's an even more predatory game being played at the very end of people's lives. Now we arrive at the darkest corner of this whole story, the place where the profit motive meets human frailty. When people get old and can no longer fully care for themselves, they often need long-term care, a nursing home, an assisted living facility, help with the most basic tasks of living. And this care is breathtakingly expensive, easily costing more per year than most people earned when they were working. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Over the last couple of decades, large investment firms figured out that desperate families and aging bodies are a reliable source of profit. So they bought up nursing homes and care facilities in enormous numbers, and then they did what they do to everything they touch. They squeezed, cut the staff to the bone, raised the prices, reduced the quality of care to the minimum the law allows, and sometimes below it. Extract every possible dollar from people who are too old, too sick, and too vulnerable to fight back. The result is a system where families drain their entire life savings, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, to pay for care that is often understaffed and mediocre, while investors thousands of miles away collect the returns. And medical costs do the rest of the damage. A single serious illness late in life can wipe out everything a person spent 40 years building in a matter of months. This is the final insult in the retirement crisis. It's not enough that people arrive at old age with too little. The system is built so that even what little they have gets extracted at the very end, when they're most helpless. So when I tell you that you must build real wealth, this is part of why. Not for luxury, not for yachts, but for the power to protect yourself and the people you love from a machine that is designed, at every turn, to separate you from your money. Now, if all of this sounds hopeless, I need you to hear the next part very carefully, because everything is about to turn. This is where we stop describing the trap and start building the way out. Take a breath, because everything changes right here. Up to this point, I've shown you a machine built to drain ordinary people, and if you're watching this thinking it's hopeless, I understand completely. But here is the truth that the whole first half of this story was setting up. The same forces that quietly destroyed millions of retirements can be turned around and put to work for you. The exact same power that made inflation and fees eat people alive, compounding over decades, is the single most powerful wealth-building force ever discovered, and it is available to absolutely anyone, no matter how little you start with. The people who retired broke weren't cursed. Most of them simply never had this explained to them, or they had it explained too late. You are getting it now, and depending on your age, this is either the most important financial lesson of your life, or a map you can hand to someone younger who still has all their time in front of them. Because time is the secret ingredient. Time is the thing that turns small, ordinary amounts of money into life-changing wealth. And it's the one resource that is wildly unequal, not between rich and poor, but between the young and the old. If you are young and you understand what I'm about to show you, you have been handed an almost unfair advantage. And if you're older, don't you dare check out, because there's a part of this plan built specifically for you, and it's more powerful than you think. Let me show you the engine first, the one thing that, once you truly see it, changes every financial decision you'll ever make. Here's the engine, and it's called compounding. Most people think their money grows in a straight line. You put in $1, it becomes 2, then 3, then 4. But that's not how it works at all. When you own assets that grow, your money earns a return, and then next year that return earns its own return, and that new growth earns even more growth, on, faster and faster. It doesn't add, it multiplies. Picture a snowball at the top of a long hill. At first it's tiny, and rolling it forward feels like nothing is happening. But every turn adds a little more snow, which creates more surface to gather even more, and by the bottom of the hill that tiny snowball has become an avalanche. That's your money, if you give it enough hill to roll down. And here's the part that stuns people. The size of the snowball at the bottom depends far less on how big it started and far more on how long the hill was. A modest amount of money invested in your 20s can end up worth more than a much larger amount invested in your 40s, simply because it had more years to multiply. The early dollars are the magic dollars. They do the heaviest lifting because they have the most time to compound. This is why waiting is so expensive and why starting, even with a small amount, even today, matters more than almost anything else. Every year you delay isn't just one lost year. It's the loss of the most powerful year, the one that would have compounded the longest. The people who retired with nothing didn't lack discipline as much as they lacked time on the hill, because nobody told them to start rolling the snowball early. So whatever your age, the message is identical. The best moment to start was years ago, and the second best moment is right now, today, before this video ends. But knowing about the engine isn't enough. You need to know exactly where to put your money, in what order, to get the most out of it, and that's the plan I'm going to hand you next. Alright, this is the part you came for. The plan. And I'm going to give it to you in a clear order, because the order matters as much as the actions. Step 1. And this is the closest thing to free money that exists on planet Earth. If you have a job that offers a retirement account with an employer match, take it immediately up to the full match. Here's what that means. Many employers will match the money you put into your retirement account, dollar for dollar, up to a certain amount. So if you put in $100, they drop in another 100 instantly. That is 100% return on your money before it has been invested in a single thing. There is no investment on earth that reliably doubles your money the moment you make it, except this one. And yet, staggeringly, huge numbers of people leave this money on the table every single year, either because they never signed up or they didn't understand what they were giving up. Let me be blunt. If your employer offers a match and you're not capturing all of it, you are choosing to turn down a raise. You are letting free money evaporate. So step 1 is not complicated, and it is not optional if you're serious. Find out if your employer matches, find out the maximum they'll match, and contribute at least enough to grab every last dollar of it. Do that today, this week, before anything else. It is the highest return move available to an ordinary person, and it costs you nothing but the discipline to set it up. But before you pour everything into investing, there's a fire you may need to put out first, and if you skip it, it'll burn down everything else you build. Step 2. Before you dream about investment returns, you have to deal with the thing eating you alive from the other direction, high-interest debt. Here's why this comes first. We just spent this whole video talking about how compounding can build you a fortune. But compounding works in both directions, and when you carry high-interest debt, especially credit card debt, that same terrible magic is running against you at brutal speed. Think about it. A good year in the stock market might grow your money by 8 or 10%. But credit card debt often charges you 20, 25% or more. So if you're investing to earn 10 while paying 20 on debt, you are running backwards, fast, no matter how disciplined you feel. Paying off a debt that charges you 20% is mathematically identical to earning a guaranteed 20% return on your money, risk-free. There is no investment that safely offers that. None. So after you've grabbed your employer match, the free money, you turn your fury on high-interest debt and you attack it with everything you've got. List your debts. Aim at the one with the highest interest rate first. Throw every extra dollar at it until it's dead. Then roll that same money onto the next one. This is the fire you put out before you build the house, because there is no point growing wealth on one side while it's being incinerated on the other. Clear that poisonous debt, and suddenly every dollar you earn stops leaking and starts building. And once the fire is out, you're ready for the part of the plan that quietly makes you wealthy, no matter what age you're starting at. Step 3 is where you build the machine that carries you the rest of the way, and it has 3 simple parts: own, automate, and wait. First, own. Once your match is captured and your high-interest debt is dead, you invest steadily in low-cost, broadly diversified funds, the kind that own a tiny slice of thousands of companies at once for almost no fee. You're not trying to pick the next hot stock or time the market. You're just quietly buying ownership of the whole economy and letting it grow. Second, automate. You set it up so money moves into those investments every single month, automatically, before you can talk yourself out of it or spend it on something else. This one trick, paying your future self first, automatically, is what separates the people who build wealth from the people who always mean to start next month. And third, wait. You let time and compounding do the heavy lifting, and you do not panic when the market dips, because it always does, and it always has recovered for the patient. Now, if you're older and you're thinking this is too late for me, listen closely, because the system actually has tools built just for you. Once you pass 50, you're allowed to make catch-up contributions, putting extra money into your retirement accounts above the normal limits, specifically so you can accelerate in the final stretch. And there's one more move that's pure gold for late starters: delaying when you claim Social Security. For every year you can hold off claiming, your monthly check grows permanently for the rest of your life. Waiting from the earliest age to full retirement age can boost your guaranteed income by a huge margin, an ironclad, government-backed raise you cannot get anywhere else. So no matter where you're starting, there is a move for you. Capture the free money, kill the debt, own the economy, automate it, and use every tool built for your age. This is the way out. It always was. And that leaves only one question that matters now, the most important one of all. So let's bring this all the way home, because everything we've talked about comes down to a single choice, and it's yours to make. Picture 2 versions of yourself, decades from now. In the first version, nothing changed after today. You closed this video, life got busy, and the plan stayed a plan you'd get to eventually. The years slipped by the way they always do, quietly, and one day you arrived at the finish line to find it empty, just like the millions we talked about at the very beginning. Not because you were lazy or stupid, but because the most powerful years, the early ones, rolled past without the snowball ever starting. Now picture the second version. In this one, something clicked today. Maybe you did just one thing this week, signed up for the match, killed one debt, set up one automatic transfer. It felt tiny at the time, almost insignificant. But that tiny action started the snowball, and time did what time does. And decades later you're standing in the exact same spot, except this time the finish line isn't empty. You're not rationing pills or filling out job applications at 70. You're free, and you're safe, and you're the person others come to for help. Same person, same starting point, two completely different endings, separated only by the choices made in ordinary weeks like this one. That is the whole truth of this story. The retirement crisis isn't destiny. It's the sum of 1,000 small decisions, and you still have yours in front of you. Here's what I need you to do, right now, before the momentum of this moment fades, because it will. That's how the trap works. Don't try to do everything. Just do one thing today. Open your retirement account and check if you're getting the full employer match. Or write down your debts and circle the one with the highest interest rate. Or set up a single automatic transfer, even if it's a small one, into a low-cost fund. One action, today, while you still feel this. Because the people who retire broke aren't a different species from the people who retire free. The only difference is that one group turned understanding into action and the other kept meaning too. You now understand more about how this actually works than most people will learn in their entire lives. Don't let that understanding die as just another video you watched and forgot. Let it be the thing that quietly changed everything. If this opened your eyes, subscribe to Money Decoded, because everything here is built to do exactly this, to hand you the knowledge the system was happy to let you go without. And if you want to understand the deeper game, how the wealthy actually build and keep their money while everyone else runs in place, watch the video on your screen next. It's the perfect next step, and it picks up right where this one leaves off. The finish line doesn't have to be empty. Not for you, but only if you move. So move, today. I'll see you in the next one.